Welcome to episode number 11 of the Farms in BC podcast. My name is Jay, and today we're going to have Nav leading the way on the topic of agritourism. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 11, and today we are going to be talking about agritourism. I'm here with my partner, Jay Cack.
Thank you.
So Jay, I know you have much more experience in agritourism. You've got family history that's done it, parts of it. You've done a lot of research here in the last 2 years about it. So tell me, what is agritourism?
So agritourism, first and foremost, it's really another income source for farmers to capitalize on. If you have the crop that's required for the type of business that you're trying to do, that would make sense. If you have the structures or if you have the location, these are all different variables that allow you to kind of have another income source, essentially.
Yeah, so you're, in a sense, the way I've always thought, and I think the public thinks of agritourism is like there's going to be rides there's going to be a show there's going to be games or like a carnival, like or some things like that, because you see it in October for Halloween. You see haunted houses, and some of these places are phenomenal, like the haunted houses,
corn mazes, the pumpkin patches, various things like this.
Christmas, they've got these, they've light up the whole farm with amazing light shows for Christmas. Summertime, they've got numerous amount of things. You can visit animals.
Really, at the root of it, it comes down to getting that genuine farm experience. For the folks that don't necessarily have that upbringing. Usually it's for children oriented. But once you get into the more adult kind of attractions, will be wineries, distilleries, and cideries and breweries, right? So those kind of things are more adult oriented. But once you're getting into kind of the farm experiences, goats are attractive. You're kind of getting into like animals, the pigs,
petting zoos,
exactly that, and just kind of getting a good feel for what that lifestyle would be like just from a small experience. People really do like to at least imagine that for a day. Maybe they don't want to live it for, maybe they don't want to live it in general, but that experience is really nice for even younger kids.
And I've noticed the U-Picks, like that's where your family has done that for many years.
For the most part, that's kind of the extent that we take it to. We don't do too much of the agritourism side of things. We kind of strictly stay in the summer months, kind of that strawberry season to the end of, blueberry season kind of thing.
And you see a lot of families just trying to get their kids out to just go have fun and pick their own fruit. And
That's right. And you can have you can have a great experience doing that. I mean, we have people that come in for U-Pick, and they come in all the way from Richmond just for one place, one specific location. And they'll be like, you know what, this is what we were doing for today. They bring in their pails, they bring in their carts, and they're ready to go, right? So they're ready to get dirty and get down to it. So that is a huge experience.
So tell me, if someone has an existing farm right now and they wanted to create additional revenue on their farm, and they wanted to create some sort of agritourism on their property, what are some things that will make their agritourism business stand out and successful?
So that's really finding your unique proposition, right? Your value-added proposition that you're trying to bring to the table. Some folks, maybe wine is the lead, and then there's other things that they add on top of it. Sometimes it's, the animals are the lead, and then they have other things that they add.
Other products.
Okay. So, for example, it might change. I know there's a few in Abbotsford that are absolutely phenomenal. We do have Mon Farms. We do have a couple others, right? Cideries and whatnot. And there's always something that they add on top of it, and
to elevate the experience almost.
Yeah, it's not always that they have the best location, but they're able to use marketing to propose what they're trying to pitch to the community. And usually it's one or two lead items, and then there's a multitude of other things that add on top of it. So this is a good way to kind of get it going, get it started, but you have to have something that differentiates you.
So in order to have it successful, location is, I would say, it would be a bonus. Like you said, as long as you've got a good marketing pitch behind it. And I do know of a few pumpkin patch areas that are not on main roads. There's one in Hazelmead here in Surrey. There's one in Maple Ridge, borderline Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, but they're more on Old Dooney, so they're on busy roads. Yeah. But they're both busy. They market themselves very well. They get themselves linked up with a local elementary school, so they do class field trips and things like that, and it's a half a day event.
Yeah, there's also farm tours and cycles that you can go through, like that will advertise each other's businesses, so you can kind of go on that farm tour. There's winery tours and this and that, right? So that also helps. And the city also tries to help in that regard as well. There's also city signs that allow you to kind of guide you to the wineries. Even off the highways, you'll notice those, right? So that's one way. And there's another way is attractions. They'll mention that there's an attraction at this exit or whatever the case is. And that's another way that the city can attempt to assist you in your business as well, right?
So the main ones, like, when you think of farm, you think of U-Pick, you think of vegetables. You brought some really good points of like wine, ciders. What I've seen that's always a good value add is they'll add a bistro in there. So they'll add something that's more than just that one product. They'll say come and stay for lunch, or they'll have like some sort of different experience. They'll have like a bouncy castle for the kids to stay there for like an extra half an hour, 45 minutes, or whatever it may be, right? So I guess in order to have a successful agri-tourism business, it's not specifically just that one product. It's going to be that one product plus how you can elevate each year to enhance the experience every year. That's right. for the consumer, right?
Yeah, and even a winery, for example, there's other levels to it that you have to add in over time, right? You can't just kind of go right away. There's elements to it that you have to add into it. So for example, the brewery or the bistro that you mentioned, so that kind of comes hand in hand with this, because when you're providing alcohol, you have to provide food kind of to balance it out. It's almost, actually it is a requirement when you're serving alcohol that there has to be some sort of food source.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
So there's different levels to it as well, because if you have a lounge endorsement, if you have a special permits license, there's different levels to the events that you can do. It can escalate all the way up to weddings and large scale events and corporate events and whatnot, right?
You know what? I've noticed that. I think a lot of these people that started with your basic mom and pop agri-tourism, they're starting to elevate and take full advantage of the events because they've got the space. They do massive like birthday parties, they're doing weddings, they're just doing like any type of social gathering that you can do as a party. They're utilizing their spaces. Wineries have their beautiful, nice little halls made in their barns to cater to 50 to 100 people. Weddings has probably been one of the biggest ones that has rapidly been growing.
We get a lot of inquiries for that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. You know what else is something that they can just really do on their farm to completely elevate the business more and more and more? Like, what's the one thing aside from weddings and parties and like bistros and things like that you're seeing that might be a little bit different or unique that you might have seen somewhere that you're not seeing at others? Something that really stands out that can help generate that extra cash flow.
It really comes down to, in my opinion, I would say it's actually the property, the location, the actual natural attributes of your property that you can bring out. I've had properties where they actually have a lake in the property, and that's a huge asset for when you're trying to create something that brings in tourists for the agritourism kind of vibe, right? So that's one thing. Views of Mount Baker or other mountains, or a nice, elevated parcel, for example, that's looking down on a nice valley or something along those lines, right? I've also had it where you can create a nice site where you can actually have helicopters land and you can have a whole helicopter experience or what have you, right? So, and that's a unique value add, right? So if that was your mainstay value and, you just add other things.
And do like a valley tour.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like nice. It's amazing. And I know one, for example, really nice wedding facility where they basically are based out of a mountain and huge views, amazing views. And it's a mansion up there. It's actually on Sumas Mountain, I believe.
Oh, nice. Local.
Actually, Matsqui, I believe. But yeah, somewhere in that area. And basically, it's a beautiful venue alone as it is. Then they add in the helicopter. Then they add in the valley views and picturesque, photo shoots and the whole package there, right?
Do they have a farming component in that one?
That's the thing. Like, it doesn't necessarily have a farming component, and I'm not 100% sure on this one. I haven't done my research on this one to actually see what the parcel is zoned for. Yeah. But just that attraction for tourism is a huge factor.
For sure.
Because it doesn't necessarily have to be on an agricultural parcel. It could be on a mountain, right? Just as an example. So that's a huge value add, I think.
Now, when someone's deciding to go and start this, what permitting processes have you seen from the municipality level and the provincial level, and do you need provincial approval for any of this?
Yeah, actually, first thing I would say is if you're in ALR land, really look into that goal that you have in mind and see that if it is compatible or not. Because if it's not an agricultural purpose, you're going to face a lot of resistance, right, against what you're trying to do. And if you kind of try to go in there and try to create a massive banquet hall or something like that on ALR land, and you're thinking that this is the best way to go about it, it may or may not be, right? There's a lot of regulations you got to work around, and for example, it kind of has to be outdoors, right? So that's one of the main challenges, is that it has to be an outdoor experience if you're trying to create some sort of hall. The other challenges are really around the building side of things.
So the infrastructure.
So you got to really look into what are the limitations on the infrastructure that you can create. What are the setbacks? What are the essentially those are the biggest things that hinder your vision.
What about licensing, as of like liquor licenses or serving food? Are those easy to get? Are they challenging? What are timelines for stuff like that?
It is challenging. It is challenging. So I would actually say do as much due diligence as you can upfront before you get into that parcel. If you sometimes can't, I mean, obviously sometimes you're in a situation where you got to purchase ahead of time.
I just remembered there used to be, and there still probably is, one of my clients, when they applied to go through this whole winery venture, they hired a consultant. So is there relatively available consultants out there that specifically focus on these different types of agri-tourisms?
Absolutely.
To get these approved or navigate through the city?
Oh yeah, just specifically for winery licensing, there are very specific consultants just for that one piece. Then there's ALR consultants, which can actually work hand in hand to make sure that they're all, kind of getting all their,
making sure that everything is by the book and done.
And that is the best way to go about it, I would say. So I've actually, worked with a few of these guys, and I think they are phenomenal at what they do. They're extremely specialized, right? So, when you're trying to get something done in that realm, you want the best of the best.
Correct.
Kind of helping you out, right? So, and here in the Fraser Valley, these are some of the best to deal with.
Yeah, and it's not even the valley. I've noticed. I was up in Sparkling Hills last weekend, and man, like just on the drive up, everything, it's agri-tourism on every farm on the way there. Like it's like the valley, I think they're behind. I think we're way too restricted. We're seeing too much red tape. Man, when I was going up there, me and my wife, we even pulled up in a few of them, picked up some cherries, picked up some cider. Like it's a thing up there, and literally it was everywhere. And you come down here, and every city might only have like one or two places. Right? Maybe two or three. And I guess I would love to see the municipality allowing more of these farmers to open up agri-tourism, so that these younger generations stay connected to agriculture and are motivated to kind of still be surrounded with that. And
I think it's an affordability thing as well. I mean, we are now being forced to find these alternative options of making money because everything is very expensive. It is true. It's not very easy to make it get into a farm property nowadays, right? So, I mean, if you have a vision for something greater than, just the crop that you're growing, maybe transforming that crop into a value-added service, the jams, the raspberries, and processing that and then selling it direct to consumer. That's a much bigger return than selling it to a cannery.
But even just like you mentioned, so doing that and then creating an experience around it on your property.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean by adding layers on top of it, right? So it's a work in process. It doesn't kind of start from the very end. You got to start from one piece at a time,
and then just keep adding,
right, over time.
There's the three that really stand out to me is Kraus, and Mon Farms, Alder Acres. Like, I've seen them in the last 10 years and how they've been growing. It's a good experience. Like, they elevate their game every year, right? Like, they've done an amazing job with their properties and their experiences, their marketing online, and I think they come out with a new product every like 6 months to a year. They've got this awesome new product that you just want to go check out and try.
Marketing is everything, and I feel like there's a lot of folks that are lacking in the marketing department. And if they actually, really dedicated a staff member or a team towards that, you could actually pull so much more traffic. And that actually leads to another issue, which is capacity and, actually having the product on hand to, service that kind of clientele, right? So a lot of the times you can't produce enough product on that one site to actually accommodate that.
And that's the beauty part is, but when you create a demand like that, you can always source the product, the raw source, because not everybody's going to want to do an agri-tourism.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's one of the regulations, and we're kind of bouncing back between everything, but like one of the regulations is you have to use 50% of the product from your own parcel. So the majority of it has to be coming from your parcel. But if say you only got a 5 acre and you're trying to make something work, it's tough.
That rule, I don't think they're enforcing it. They would destroy the agricultural market. Like, the agri-tourism would be gone, wineries would be gone, these fruit stands would be gone. I think it's there. I just don't think they've changed it, but I don't think they're enforcing it either. They also do understand that once these things are established, it's a community thing. It's hard to tell them that, hey, we're going to shut this down because you're not growing your cherries from here. You're selling them, but right, you know what I mean? Like,
and how do you really calculate how much of that is from there, or whatnot? And I just speaking from my experience, like what we've seen is that we have multiple parcels that we're kind of pulling from, so it's not necessarily just one parcel that you're getting all that, and you have to sell it directly there. We get, for example, we have a blueberry farm, and that blueberry farm services 4 different markets that we have throughout Chilliwack and Abbey, right? So we're selling direct to consumer through farm stands, essentially, right? And different farm stands are situated in areas where we actually have U-pick capability. So those will direct traffic to for U-pick. If there's any marketing that's happening, and we've given it a shot at one point, but reality is the traffic alone is enough for us to kind of be at capacity, and we can't even support an extra, the marketing coming in, right? So it's that's what I mean by capacity, right?
Well, I think because, like, when you go get your licensing and you go try to get all these approvals in place, I think the municipality has to back these farmers and allow them to expand on site. Make the processes a little bit easier for them. Okay, you start off at your basic square footage, and as you're expanding, the city can see that you're expanding. Allow them to expand. Allow them to keep growing their business that way, right?
But I mean, that's the other thing as well. Like, as long as it's an agricultural purpose, the city's going to try to work with you, and they will actually accommodate as much as they can. But it's when we start getting into the big businesses where you're trying to create big stadiums, almost like large barns and whatnot for different purposes, right? And another restriction on the barn side of things for events is actually there's a limitation on how many you can do depending on the licenses, right? So I know for certain licenses, I think you can only do 10 to 11. I'm sure there's a way around it or whatnot, but from my understanding, that's the amount you can do.
I think they had to put a restriction. So, like, because imagine if it was unlimited, you'd have one every day. There's that 5-10% that will go over the top.
Use that, right?
If you're a buyer and you're going to be looking to buy an existing sort of farm with an agri-tourism component, what are some things that you should do for due diligence?
An existing business is tough. It really depends on the farm as well, because are they showing their financials, or are they just selling direct to consumer cash, right? So sometimes, farm gate style is simply meaning you're selling it direct to consumers, and it's usually for cash or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that's on books versus off books.
It could be the crop is sufficient to be, carried over to the next person, right? So that's something that you can use to have an understanding of what the value is of that property. But it's tough to say. It's really location, first and foremost, I would say. And then second is what the crop is on the property. And if there's facilities to actually produce that crop into something of value-added service, that's the third consideration.
And I think it's like any other business. When you're buying some sort of business, what are some things that you need to transfer? This is no different. You've got licensing. Can it be transferred? You've got business name. Can it be transferred? Same thing. You got to grow these crops. Is there a consultant on board that can help grow these crops? You're right. Financials, and most financials are going to be skewed just because if it's on the books or off the books, right? But the one thing what I like about buying any existing agri-tourism setup is they've got a core group of audience already. And if you have an excelled vision, you can walk in and you can do very well with that branding, with that name, or modifications, and expand, right?
And there's a lot of people at different levels in their life, right? So what one person is doing at this point in time may just be trivial to the next person that has a much bigger vision, right? But it's a nice starting point for them. For example, I've seen, not necessarily saying, that they have a higher vision, but I've seen really, really unique businesses where it's like a meadery, which is very rare. You don't see meaderies very much, which is like a wine made of honey, right? Which is really cool. But like, what's the market for that, right? Like, who would want to take that over? Are they capable? Who has the experience? Who has the knowledge of this kind of a business? It's very hard to set up a large business and then try to sell it because your vision may not align with the majority of folks, right? So, but if there's somebody that, say, for example, sees a strawberry farm or raspberry farm and they envision a great location for a U-pick/winery or whatever the case may be, that's a great person to sell to or take over. So it just depends.
Do you have any other final thoughts about agritourism, like things that you might want to tell the audience something that they should look out for, or just what were your final thoughts on?
I would say education is first. Second thing is really getting out there and supporting the community and going to these locations, support them, see what they're doing, because there's different layers to them. You may not have experienced everything. You might have only seen some certain things on their Instagrams and social medias and Facebook and whatnot, but there's different levels to what they're doing, right? And also come back regularly, subscribe to them, their newsletters, support them, right? So you may find that they have 12 different events for 12 different months of the year.
I was just going to say that when you subscribe to them, you get to experience them through all 4 seasons, and they always have something. There's always something. Summertime, spring, fall, winter.
And there's different levels to these. I mean, for example, we're only available between May to like September, and that's just, we're fine with that, right? But some folks are full year round, right? And typically it'll be about 10 months of the year max, because January and February is kind of winter, but
even then, like,
people still maximize on that.
They'll come up with amazing ideas.
And here's the thing, it's not like this community is closed off to newcomers. It's something that they completely embrace. Go out there, see what you can implement into your own business, what you feel comfortable implementing into your own business. Maybe it's a value add for what your unique proposition is. There's actually organizations out there that really promote this, like NAFDMA, NAFDMA, North American Farmers Direct Marketing Association. Yeah, I would never memorize that, but you know what I mean. It's out in the U.S., but it really does represent all of North America. And one of the best things about that organization is they really introduce you to concepts you would never have thought. You'll go out there and you'll see something that you would never have seen locally, and you bring that back. They give you all the resources to actually be able to implement that into your own business. So you get to explore multitudes of different, farmers that are doing different things. And that's a nice organization to actually really get involved with and have a community behind you, right? So you can actually grow your own business.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Out of all the agri-tourism places you've seen, who have you seen that is excelling and is probably one of the best out there in the Abbotsford area?
Well, and if you narrow it down to Abbotsford, it's an easy one.
Well, give me one from Abbotsford because this is your backyard. Give me Abbotsford. Give me one from Chilliwack.
It's definitely Mon Farms. Mon Farms is killing it on all the different levels, right?
Yeah.
So
big shout out to him. Yeah, they're on next level.
Whole family. It's just they're doing crazy, awesome things.
Yeah.
And just extremely innovative, right? So I mean that's really the lifeblood of agritourism. If you're innovative, you're going to bring folks back every year, and next year is going to be something new and fresh, and they really have a good team behind them.
I think in Langley, the overall rounded person is Kraus.
Yeah.
Like they've got every season covered. They've got every single event. They're growing like crazy. It's an amazing experience. There's a lot of smaller ones in in Langley as well. A lot of amazing wineries in Langley, a lot of amazing bistros in Langley. But if you had to look at the umbrella of all rounded, they have something almost for every season.
Man, I can rattle off a bunch of names here because there's so many unique propositions that so many people have. Like Krausberry, they have their berry pies and this and that. And
their pumpkin patch is probably one of the most popular ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alder Acres, they've got a big community, big backing.
Glasshouse Winery has the helicopter coming in experience. That's amazing.
Yeah,
you should definitely check that one out. There's the corn maze in Chilliwack corn maze, massive corn maze that they have.
Surrey has Bowes corn maze. In Surrey, Art Naps is probably one of the biggest, but it's more nursery, retail.
Ooh, that'd be nice having a nursery kind of agritourism setup. I haven't seen much of that, but I can imagine that being very.
Yeah, I think Art Naps is probably the closest. There's not a really big one in Surrey. And this is we need something in Surrey. Yeah, there's a few good locations that would work amazingly. I think it's a lot of the red tape and approvals, and
it's also having that kind of vision, right? And having the right people in the right place. And maybe it's a younger thing, I don't know, but like there's a lot of folks that are older that are doing quite well. But I mean, it seems to be the younger crowd that's really into the social media and the marketing and pushing it out there with the innovation, right? So that's what we've seen in Abbey there. And I mean, there's so many others in Abbey that are amazing as well, like Taves Cidery, for example, and they're doing amazing things with their stuff. Goat yoga, these kind of things. Like there's so many out there, right, that are just amazing. And
it's gimmicky, but I bet you it's an experience. It's not like you're gonna go do yoga every day with the baby goats, but it's an experience, right? If you're into that, it's like, hey, let's go try that, right?
And have you ever heard of Eco Dairy in Sumas? They're doing amazing stuff as well. And I mean, it's not just agritourism, but there's agricultural businesses on top of other elements to it. Like I don't know if Lep's Farm Market would fit into this category, but they do have so much.
They have, and I think there's Cloverdale. There's Surrey Farm Market. There's Cloverdale Farm Market. But what I've noticed with them, they're more of a farmer's market. Even Lep's is amazing. I've been there many times. But they'll throw in the smaller agri-tourism add-ons. But when I was thinking about like, okay, what's that one that not only has that, but gives you this wow experience, right? And there are a few. I'm hoping that some of these smaller ones do grow into as big as some of these nice ones that we've seen out here in Abbotsford, Chilliwack, and Langley.
And the reason I come back to location every single time is because that's really, I feel like in my head, really where we shine the most. Our location is really based on traffic that's heading to a regular tourist destination, which is called Slake, for example, right? So we're right on that edge, and you're kind of passing by, and it's a great way to kind of accommodate that demographic, so we can really nail down that demographic and cater accordingly, right? So having this vision and having a little bit of a plan in play can make a big difference, right? So in that way, we don't really have to market very much because it's a very dedicated traffic source.
And you might see it year one, you're like, oh, what's that? Year two, you might pop in. And then slowly, like you said, it's layers. You keep adding and adding and adding to it, right?
So anyways, feel free to check out KBF Farm Market. That's what
I might as well give them a shout out. That's it. So thanks for joining us, everyone. If you have any questions regarding any agri-tourism, please feel free to reach out.